Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and we've had some movement over the last 24 hours. Several of these digital assets have gone up a pretty decent amount. Now some things looks like they've pulled back. Let me show you what I just did today. First thing I did is I bought XRP on Uphold. Uphold is one of my sponsors. The link's in the top of the description. I've made a personal decision that I'm going to be, for a long time I had stopped accumulating XRP just because XRP is my thing and I've got plenty of it, but not anymore. The Digital Asset Investor is going to continue to accumulate XRP from now on off of Uphold's the only place I know of that I can really get it. So I will be accumulating XRP until this party is over or until the party starts, however you look at it. Now, here's what else I did today. I bought Algorand. Ledger is also one of my sponsors, and I bought Algorand directly onto my Ledger Nano S. I already had Algorand on it, and I bought more Algorand on the app, the Ledger app on my phone. It drops right into your Algorand account on your Ledger. Love doing that. The third thing I did, and until I found out iTrustCapital, who is another one of my sponsors, I found out iTrustCapital had one digital asset that you could stake on there now, and you earn like up to 9+%. It's Polkadot. Okay, Polkadot was founded by Gavin Wood, who's one of the Ethereum founders, and I didn't own any Polkadot, but it's the only one I can stake on iTrustCapital, and I did a little bit of research on it and saw that it's a legit deal, and I can stake it and earn 9% and I can earn it tax free or tax deferred depending on what kind of account I have on iTrustCapital. iTrustCapital is another one of my sponsors, and the link to that's in the top of the description. But I did all of that today. Now I want everybody to listen to me and listen to me good, because you are you're listening to a 48-year-old who has been around. I went through the financial crisis. In my opinion, the financial crisis was one of the greatest learning experiences for anybody on this planet, okay? There was one key thing that I learned from the financial crisis, and that is that when you have a terrible financial crisis, no matter how smart it is to own certain assets, whether it's gold or XRP or anything else, a lot of these are long-term plays. No matter how smart it was for you to invest in those things, they all go down when you have a major financial crisis. In the early stages, they all go down. Well, and in that scenario, until the day comes that the value of the dollar actually collapses, which may never come, cash is king. And there's another thing he's saying in here that's coming. It's coming. Any of you out there, it is coming. And I'm not a financial advisor, but I'm just telling you it's coming. I grew up in real estate. I also saw this in the financial crisis. Patrick Bet David, he said 30-year fixed rates just hit 7.32% as of today. 10% is around the corner. Only the paranoid survive, and the arrogant investor will get slaughtered by the crash. Stay paranoid. Cash is king. He said people need to be told the truth. Here are some things to be ready for. Be ready for 8 to 12% interest rates. Be ready for $6 national average gas prices. Be ready for used car prices to go up another 10 or 20%. Be ready for home prices to drop 20 to 40%. And I think that's it. Now, this is the shoe that's dropping. I think we're right in the middle of it dropping. I think this is cascading across the country right now. I was actually talking to my wife about it last night. Okay? These are things everybody needs to be aware of. Now look at Brian Armstrong from Coinbase. Gary Gensler's lone crusade against digital assets represents a bad policy choice that will translate into really bad politics for Democrats. Don't remember hearing any of this out of Brian Armstrong when Ripple was the only one that was the target of the SEC. Now he's all upset and worried. He also wants us to kumbaya and wants us to all just join together. He wants the whole industry to collaborate more. Okay? No tribalism.
I want the whole industry to kind of collaborate more. Like the divisiveness, the tribalism in crypto is one thing that kind of bugs me. I think it probably bugs you too. And the enemy is not other crypto people. Like we're all pretty much on the same team here. The goal is like, how do we 100x the size of the pie? I'm pro Lightning Network, like all this stuff. But I'm also like supportive of everybody in crypto who's basically trying to create decentralized cryptocurrencies that increase economic freedom in the world.
Man, those two guys are the core of tribalism. I'll never forget when Anthony Pompliano was talking to Brad Garlinghouse and pretended like he didn't understand XRP. And he goes, well, why couldn't you just do that with Bitcoin? And Anthony Pompliano is not a dumb guy. If he was a dumb guy, okay, then I would excuse it. But he's not a dumb guy, which means he was intentionally playing stupid, just like his partner, I don't know if it's his partner now, Mark Yusko. And I still think it's interesting that all of a sudden most of the Bitcoin stuff has disappeared from Pompliano's Twitter feed and his social media presence. But I said here, all of a sudden, everyone wants to put tribalism aside, and I'm all for it, folks. Don't get me wrong. I've said from day one, even though we had to uncover ETHgate, we were forced into that situation. I want Bitcoin, Ethereum, I want them all to do well, but I want them to do it on a level playing field, minus the corruption that engineered this market for Bitcoin and Ethereum for the last however many years. Minus that, I'm all for them. And see, that's the problem. That's the reason the tribalism started in the first place, is because a lot of these money people that propped up Bitcoin and Ethereum, they did it because they knew they couldn't compete on a level playing field. That's why they did it. Okay, and because they were earlier investors. Now, this guy, I think, is over the target here. Something's coming. Emails released to Ripple under seal. Charles freaks out, Charles Hoskinson. Anti-XRP pundits now trying to say we are rooting for Ripple to win. All these so-called blockchain associations now want to talk Ripple versus SEC. Coinbase now saying we're in this together. Yeah, exactly. There's a reason that these maxis and these people who worked so hard to bash Ripple and XRP are now letting Brad Garlinghouse dunk them in dunking booths. Okay? That's not a coincidence. I think this came out today, folks. I don't remember seeing this video of Chris Larson, so I'll let you watch it.
And I'm one of the co-founders and currently the executive chairman of Ripple. Since our earliest days, we really saw this as the building of what we would refer to as an internet of value, where value, money, is moving like data does today on the internet of data as we know it. And we think that's profoundly important because when you look at today's world, I think we see it as like globalization is not complete until you have kind of three things that are working together. That you have a really efficient and interoperable shipping infrastructure, and we have that with this beautiful invention called the shipping container. We've had that since the 50s, where every port, train, truck, factory is interoperable with any other port, train, truck anywhere in the world. That's a good thing and has made shipping incredibly efficient and accessible. Second, you need data to be moving globally, interoperably, essentially for free with access to everyone. That's what Internet Protocol did starting in the 80s and into the 90s, fundamentally changing the way we communicate. But that's not enough. We also need to have money and value moving in that same way, where every money network is interoperable with every other money or value network anywhere on the planet, where everybody has equal access to that internet of value, where costs are as low as they can possibly be, so that everybody can participate in that globalized economy. So we think with those three things that are in place, you truly have globalization that works for everybody. And that's why we're so passionate about working on this notion of an internet of value. That's fundamentally what we're doing here. And I think over the last 10 years, we've made great progress to that. We're really excited about what comes next in terms of what that's going to mean for the average person.
Nice clip. Okay, now this clip I saw Riz XRP sending around today, and this is very interesting. We may have played this before, but it doesn't matter. This guy's smart, and it's so on point.
Anybody out there that's telling you they
and while I say it, folks, XRP sure does sound like a bond when you listen to this. Folks, look. Don't be surprised if when this whole story is finished being written, you're holding the equivalent of a bond that's paying you interest and has a hell of a value, high value.
Where the price of XRP will go, has no idea. Zero, absolutely zero clue. But I'll give you a tiny hint of an idea of what could happen. So XRP it's a financial instrument of value. And that instrument is basically, the instrument's really liquidity between different other instruments like bonds, stocks, currencies, all everything basically. Yeah. And the XRP is only worth the value of the things that are issued on it, because it would cost XRP to buy those things on the network and use that liquidity. Mm-hmm. So what ends up happening here is not only do you have to issue all of the equity, but you've also got to issue all of the debt. So XRP is only bound by the fiscal responsibility of the people that issue assets on it, which is obviously irresponsible. So XRP could be at $100, $100,000, $1 million. It depends on how many assets you want to issue onto the network. So if you wanted to issue, $100 trillion worth of equity, cool. That's a lot of money on the network. What happens if they want to issue another $500 million worth of debt? That also adds value to the network. So there really is a mind-blowing amount of wealth, essentially, that can basically be flowing through these networks that we can't even comprehend because of that debt question of being able to issue more and more and more value. Anybody else?
Mind-blowing, folks. Mind-blowing. In other words, what he said. Let me recap what he just said, folks. Think about what the problems are in this country that have been talked about for years now, and we're now, it feels like we're entering the end game here, and that's a thumbnail, by the way. It feels like everything's coming to a head, and what he just said in that clip, folks, is that the value of XRP, it doesn't matter what value is put on it, whether it's an asset or a debt. What if it's all the money? What if it's all the assets and all the debt? You're talking about trillions, hundreds of trillions, potentially quadrillions of value on that thing. XRP's the one. That is one thing I have never swayed from, folks. Now, watch this, because this is important. Listen to the conversation that Joe Indoso from Link2 relays here. And by the way, link to top of the description. You can click on the link. They're one of my sponsors. They're selling Ripple private equity there, and I think there's some still available. Maybe not for long if you really understand what's going on in all this. But listen to what Joe Indoso says. He's talking about how Link2 itself, when this XRP Ripple lawsuit dropped, they had to speak to a lawyer who happens to be, the one they spoke to happens to be the first general counsel for Ripple. And listen to what he says.
The other thing that resonated with me when I read the arguments that were specific to this notion that XRP doesn't constitute, or the issuance doesn't constitute an investment contract, right, was the counsel we had gotten back in December of 2020 when this case was first filed, and we as a company needed to make a decision as to what our posture was going to be. Would we continue to list Ripple on our platform, right? in view of this. So one of the guys that we sought advice from was the former general counsel of Ripple, and he was the guy that had actually argued and settled the case that was brought against them by Treasury, FinCEN, and OCC several years before that. And it was very clear, he told us that in his mind, and we could review the legal papers from that time, that case clearly established XRP as a currency, as defined under U.S. regs, and not a security. And so these now more current arguments about why it's not, again, raise that whole other thing, which is, yes, indeed, this thing is a currency, not a security. It meets all the standards of a currency.
There you have it, folks. So how could that's the problem here. How any kind of judge that's being halfway reasonable would see that. That's what's crazy about how this lawsuit's even gotten to this point. If I'm the judge a long time ago, I say, wait a minute, why are you bringing this lawsuit? This thing was declared a currency in 2015. Get out of my courtroom, and I'm going to let you, the SEC, pay the cost to this point to Ripple and any costs we've incurred in dealing with this, because it's already been declared by the U.S. government as a currency, and you knew it before you brought the suit. That's what baffles my mind. But we've seen so much corruption in everything. Who knows what's what now? Now, I thought this was an interesting tweet. This guy says, here's my theory. And by the way, he put this in my crypto red pill group. You can find the crypto red pill group. If you go and you look at my link tree that's in the description of my videos, you can click on that and there's a link to the red pill group. You can apply to join. It's free, and we'll accept you. Pretty much, if you're not just some guy that's just created an account, we'll probably let you in there. Here's my theory. The switch will happen in November. We'll go to sleep on Friday with old system and wake up on Monday with a new one. Both systems will run till March 31st, 2023. If they want to hide or cover up that from the public, why not November 7th, Monday, day before election? In other words, the election becomes a distraction. You flip a switch. This is his election theory about flipping a switch. Now, I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just saying I thought it was interesting. And you would too. More than 105 million XRP were added to prominent cryptocurrency wallets in the last 24 hours, according to data compiled by Whale Alert. As of right now, the total value of all XRP held by whales is estimated to be over 48.3 million. I wish I could be in that group. All right. And then we had this. Library tweeted this out. The most anti-crypto legislators are upset about the SEC's revolving door, and this is a sign that the bad guys are losing. Elizabeth Warren and AOC, both, in my opinion, lunatics, they've sent a letter, and they're angry. They're actually doing something right for once. They're sending a letter to who'd they send the letter to? 28, I don't know. I think they sent the letter to the SEC to complain about how all of these crypto, all the government officials are going into crypto. Well, I decided I would bring, and then Ben Armstrong, BitBoy, says, if you can't tell, the Senate is embarrassed by dirty Gary Gensler. That's why they're asking questions about the revolving door at his office. Imagine being someone that everyone hates. And then I sent this to Elizabeth Warren because we were trying to, before anybody was paying attention to ETHgate, before everybody wanted to kumbaya and have no tribalism, when they were all just happy that Ripple was being sued and they weren't, we were all digging. And one of the things we dug up, this is from April 11th, 2021, I was trying to make Elizabeth Warren aware of her hearing. Remember, she had a hearing where she was saying Jay Clayton should not be brought in. I think this was the one where he was going through his, they were trying to decide whether to let him be a commissioner. And this is the one where she's calling into question all of his conflicts of interest.
Based on your personal client disclosures then, for half of your tenure as SEC chair, you would not be able to vote to enforce the law against several big banks, including Goldman Sachs, Deutsche Bank, Barclays, and UBS. Is that right?
Yes, Senator.
Thank you. Those banks have repeatedly violated securities laws in the past few years.
Right, now she goes on, and what she's complaining about is all these people that he's represented, that he wouldn't be able to go after them. What she does not cover, and what she should haul his butt back up there, because what she does not cover is what if Jay Clayton, what about Jay Clayton being able to go after people who his law firm that he's unable to go after Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan and those because his law firm represented those. Well, can he go after JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs competitors? Could he, for instance, file a suit as he walks out the door against Ripple that might compete with something JP Morgan is involved in or Goldman Sachs is involved in? That's what she needs to ask him. And I even told her where she could find him. I said, you won't have trouble tracking Jay Clayton down. Instead of asking him any questions about this whole controversy, CNBC hired him as a contributor instead. He's on there every once in a while, Elizabeth Warren. Go find him. Call his butt up there. Get him to answer some of these questions because God knows nobody else is making him. CNBC's holding him up as a pundit. James Phelan put this out. The SEC takes no position on the motions to file amicus briefs by the Investor Choice Advocates Network and Spend the Bits, but requested it be able to respond in its reply brief in support of the SEC's motion for summary judgment. We'll see how all that goes. Then, folks, then we've got this. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family that Ripple is advertising right at that place right there, the one that can't be named. Thanks for listening.